Welcome to today's story. He's trying to bring happiness to Huyen and little Maya, two hearts that have endured more than their fair share of pain. But as they return to a place filled with memories, will they find peace or reopen old wounds? This is a simple, heartfelt tale about love, forgiveness, and the quiet strength of hope. If you believe that love can heal even the deepest scars, stay with Huyen through every step of her journey. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this story to spread a little warmth to others. Now let's begin. A warm goodbye from Huyen and Day. The morning was soft, wrapped in golden light, as the first rays of sun slipped through the trees and kissed the porch. Everything felt still, like the world was holding its breath, not quite ready to let them go. Huyen quietly packed their things, each movement filled with a tender hesitation, as if a part of her heart wasn't quite ready to leave this little house, this place that had somehow brought back the warmth of a family she thought she'd lost forever. Ms. Them stepped onto the porch, her eyes kind, her voice laced with gentle affection. "Why don't you two stay just a little longer?" she said warmly. Huyen offered a small smile, cheeks flushed with emotion. "Thank you so much," she replied softly. "But we've got a long road ahead. I'll come visit again soon, I promise." Her words floated into the quiet air, more than just a goodbye, a promise carried on the breeze. And in that moment, the emotion said more than any words could. Ms. Them's gaze, deep and full of love, felt like that of a mother watching her child head off into the world. Then little Maya looked up, her eyes bright, her voice sweet and clear. "Bye-bye, Grandma." It was a simple phrase, but it melted every heart in the room. Their stay hadn't been long, but it was enough. Enough for Huyen to realize something powerful. Love is always there. In a humble meal, a comforting touch, or the quiet watchfulness of someone who truly cares. For the first time in years, her heart felt safe, warmed by something sacred, motherly love, and the feeling of home. The journey home. The car rolled slowly down the winding roads, some familiar, some forever changed, carrying the three of them away from Adam's porch and the warm memories they'd barely had time to say goodbye to. At a quiet fork in the road, the car eased to a stop. Huyen looked out the window at the trees swaying gently in the early morning breeze. Des stepped out first, holding out his hand just like he used to, back when life offered more questions than answers. Together, the three of them continued on in silence. Words weren't needed. Everything unsaid was quietly waiting for the right moment to be felt. Then, after what felt like a lifetime, Dee's old home appeared at the end of the dusty red path. The rusted iron gate was still shut tight, its paint peeling with time, each flake a whisper of forgotten days. Moss had crept across the stone walls like memory itself, quiet, stubborn, and impossible to ignore. Huyen stopped in her tracks. Her heart ached. This place was both achingly familiar and distant, like stepping into a dream she once tried to forget. She didn't speak, just let her eyes drift across every detail, searching for the pieces of herself she'd left behind. Dee placed a steady hand on her shoulder. His voice was low, gentle. "Go on in, I'll bring the bags." Silence wrapped around them like a blanket. Only the rustling leaves and soft sunlight filtered through the moss-covered walls. Huyen shook her head slightly, her voice cracking. "There was a time I thought I'd never come back here, Dee turned to her, his eyes deep full of memories and meaning. This house holds so much of our past. I'm grateful you came back with me. He reached for her hand, firm, warm, unwavering. And just like that, the dam of emotion broke. Huyen wept, no longer hiding behind the mask of strength she'd worn for so long. I just hope, she said, between tears, that we can finally have a peaceful life. At that moment, little Maya ran up, her bright eyes sparkling like sunlight through the trees. Maya's going to school soon, she chirped, her voice bursting with joy. She wrapped her tiny arms around Huyen, holding on tight, like she never wanted to let go. Huyen knelt down and embraced her daughter, tears blending into a smile. It was the smile of a woman who had walked through storms and was finally stepping into the calm. A home once silent, now full of life. After all these quiet, forgotten years, the little house was alive again with laughter, not loud or boisterous, but soft and warm like a gentle melody echoing through moss-covered walls and weathered windows reaching straight into the heart. Inside, Huyen and Dee moved through each room, dusting, sweeping, breathing life back into the corners that time had tucked away. Her hands caressed each old object with care, as if each piece held a memory just waiting to be awakened, brought back not with noise, but with love. The midday sun beat down on the faded red roof, filling the house with a dry heat that clung to the air. Dee noticed. Her quiet paused beside her, his voice as gentle as it was the first day they met. Are you tired? Maybe take a break. Huyen looked up, her smile soft and serene, the kind of smile that made exhaustion disappear. I'm not tired, she whispered. I just feel happy. He held her gaze a moment, then nodded with quiet understanding. Without a word, he slipped out and followed the old path to the village market. He came back with fresh vegetables, a few simple groceries, and a small bundle of wild daisies. Unassuming, resilient, just like Huyen had always been. Meanwhile, Huyen had wandered into the garden. It was overgrown wild from the passing years, but still familiar. She found a few ears of young corn, still wet with morning dew, husked them with practiced ease, and brought them into the kitchen to boil. Soon the scent of sweet corn filled the room, blending with the gentle bubbling of the pot, simple, comforting, like the life she had once dreamed of. Out on the porch, little Maya laughed and ran with their plump, tail-wagging dog, Bibi. Her laughter rang through the air, like sunlight hair, dancing in the wind feet, pattering across the old yard. Every giggle, every step brought warmth and light to the midday heat. From the kitchen window, Huyen watched her daughter, her eyes suddenly misty. Every moment like this felt precious, like a song she thought she'd never hear again. She pulled the first ear of corn from the pot, steam rising in gentle curls. Placing it on a white porcelain dish, she wiped the sweat from her brow. But what rose inside her wasn't weariness. It was peace. A deep, quiet peace. Perhaps peace isn't some distant dream, she thought. Maybe it's right here in a sunlit kitchen, in the sound of her daughter's laughter, and in the steady presence of a man who chose to come home for her. A meal made with love on a familiar village road. Day walked briskly, his shoulder bag swaying with each determined step. The sun blazed overhead, sweat beading on his forehead, but his eyes sparkled with something more powerful than the heat anticipation. One thought circled in his mind, simple yet full of heart. Tonight, I'm cooking something special for her. And for Maya. He stopped at every stall in the marketplace, taking his time. He picked bundles of fresh greens, still kissed with morning dew, selected fish so fresh they practically shimmered, inspecting each one with care, like he was assembling the perfect puzzle for a peaceful afternoon. He had never done this before, but for Huyen and Maya, today was a beginning. By the time he made it home, a smile played softly on his lips, light as the breeze. The old gate creaked as he pushed it open, and there she was. Huyen stood waiting. She didn't say a word. She just smiled. And in that smile was a quiet warmth that stopped D in his tracks, a gentleness that made his heart stir. Uncle Demaya's bright voice rang out as she ran to him, wrapping her little arms around his legs. Her eyes sparkled. "Did you bring me something?" He crouched down with a grin, gently ruffling her hair. "Of course I brought you some milk, just like you like." Laughter echoed through the courtyard, filling the space that had once felt so empty. Inside, Huyen was already at work in the kitchen. A pot of fresh corn boiled on the stove, filling the room with the sweet scent of summer. Meanwhile, Dee got to work with the fish, cleaning seasoning, preparing it just the way he remembered his mother once did. He was clumsy, a little unsure, but his hands moved with intention and care. The fire crackled. Smoke stung his eyes. But somehow, Dee felt nothing but warmth. Huyen sat nearby, occasionally glancing over. Her gaze was soft, reflective, full of something deeper. Maybe gratitude, maybe something more, maybe just a rare, quiet peace. Finally, dinner was ready. The simple kitchen filled with the rich aroma of braised fish, the sweetness of corn, and the clean scent of boiled greens. They laid out the meal on the porch. It was modest, humble, but steeped in love. Maya took a bite and beamed. "Uncle D, this is so good." Huyen laughed, her eyes shining. "I have to admit, you've gotten pretty good at this." Dee froze for a moment, surprised. Then he looked up at her. And in that glance was everything he hadn't said. An old regret, a fragile hope, a quiet thank you for her return. It wasn't a lavish meal. There were no fine dishes or expensive ingredients. But this dinner held something far greater: love. Quiet, steady, real. Love that had been lost and somehow found again. For Huyen, this little house wasn't just a place to return to. It was where she finally faced her past, her memories, her pain, her old love. And in that same place, she rediscovered something she thought she'd lost forever: the gentle heartbeat of a home and a glimmer of hope for a peaceful tomorrow.
Chào mừng các bạn đến với câu chuyện hôm nay. Mình đang cố gắng mang lại cho mình hai trái tim thậm chí nhiều tổn thương, đợi sự trở về nên cũng có mang đến bình yên, chỉ khơi lại những nỗi đau xưa. Một câu chuyện thật sự đầy cảm xúc về tình yêu, sự tha thứ và hy vọng. Nhưng bạn tin rằng yêu thương có thể chữa lành hạnh phúc người cho vỡ điểm cuối. Một lời chào tạm biệt ấm áp của người vào đêm buổi sáng là những tia nắng đầu tiên đêm qua, tàn lá soi nhẹ xuống nền nhà, không gian yên tĩnh, lặng như níu dưới chân người vừa nảy nở rộng, từng động tác có chút như